Is this thing on? I think I remember how to do this. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon and this is Shannon's Book Nook, and today we're going to be doing a video that should have been done weeks ago, but this is going to be my August wrap up. Let's get into it. So unfortunately this video is coming a couple weeks late. I always try to get my wrap-up videos up at the very beginning of the month, and because we are back in school, my energy level to film, to edit, to do anything other than rest has been difficult. So yeah, let's talk about my August stats. I read 8 total books, which is down significantly from where I have been, especially during the summertime. So 8 books total. 2 of those were ebooks and 6 of them were mixed media, meaning I read them tandemly with an audiobook and an ebook or a physical book. I had 3 arcs that I read this month, which is really great for my NetGalley ratio. I read 2,984 pages, 64 hours, 43 minutes, and 39 seconds of audiobook time. I did unfortunately have 1 DNF, which was a very anticipated read, which kind of sucks, but we'll talk about that in a minute. My average star rating was a 3.69, which is decent, not too bad. And of course, my most read genre is romance. I don't think that's going to change, but I like to see what genres I am reading. Does it fluctuate depending on the seasons? We'll find out. I had 5 books that had representation. So that can be any kind of representation, whether that's learning disability, mental illness, physical disabilities, BIPOC authors, LGBTQIA, any kind of representation. And then I am keeping track of my 25 and 2025, which I set at the beginning or very end of last year. And I have currently read 17 of the 25 books, which is great. So I'm on a roll, but I only have the rest of September, which is almost halfway done by this point, and October, November, December. So 3.5 months to read the 8-ish books that I have left. So now let's talk about the books that I actually read. So the first book we're going to talk about is my DNF, which is A Study in Drowning by Reid. This is a stunning edition. I loved the sprayed edges, which have books along the edge and all the way around on the sides, and the end pages are very pretty, like swirlish blues. Unfortunately, I got maybe 30% in and I didn't care. I didn't care about anything that was happening in this book. I was really struggling and it was starting to put me into a reading slump. So I decided to DNF because I knew if I got into a reading slump, and it being at the very beginning of the school year, it was going to be hard for me to come out of that. So I decided to DNF, abandon it. Will I give it another go? I don't know. I don't know if I care enough. But I have heard amazing things about this book. I hear my friends rave about it on Instagram and BookTube. So I want to give it maybe another shot, but right now this is just not a book that I'm interested in. And unfortunately, I think it is like, yeah, part gothic mystery. And that is something gothic is just not something I enjoy reading, unfortunately. So I don't know. This might just be a book that's not for me, and that's okay. All right, so let's start with my 3-star reviews. My first 3-star is Even If It Hurts by Sam Mariano. And this, look, there's a very fine line between love and hate. And it took me a while to figure out which it was for this book. And so I landed on a 3-star, but just be aware, this is a very dark and disturbing and intense romance. Okay. This is the kind of story that is going to make you feel uncomfortable. But it also had me kind of hooked. Okay, so Dare is a true psychopath. He is not morally gray. He is a psychopath, okay? And the author makes it very clear in her author's note at the very beginning that there is no changing him. And the character, Aubrey, the main female character, acts the way she does to keep herself safe in this very toxic relationship, okay? So once Aubrey kind of catches his attention, she knows that she can't escape. So this dynamic that they have in the book is insane. Okay. there are several times in the book where I just had to close it and walk away for a little bit because things, wow. Okay. This book is not for everybody. If you like dark romance, if you like your men to be truly dark and do some very not good things, twisted, then this is a book that you might like. But yeah, this is one of the darker romances I have read in a very long time. So check those trigger warnings and be careful. My next 3-star read was The Stray Prince by Ella Fields. This is a fantasy romance. It is book 2 in a duology. The first book is A King So Cold. And unfortunately, I did not write a review on Goodreads, and it's now September, and I read this at the beginning of August. So it's been about a month. And so the details are kind of hazy on some things. And I've already read a couple of fantasy romances since reading this book. I do remember the characters' names, Audra and Zad, and their love story. They have some stuff to work out in this book, which they definitely have to, you know, work through. It is not all sunshine and rainbows for them, that's for sure. There were a lot of secrets between the two, and they are having a hard time kind of trusting each other because of those secrets that were kept throughout almost the entire book 1. I do remember loving their romance, their story. The spice does kick up in this book, which I really enjoyed. Other than that, it's kind of a little bit predictable, but I still had a good time with it, and I do highly recommend this duology. My next 3-star read is Barbarian's Touch by Ruby Dixon. This is book 6 or 7, I can't remember, book 7 of the Ice Planet Barbarian series, which is sci-fi or alien smut. So this is Rokon and Lila's story. So Lila has had a cochlear implant when she was on Earth, but when she was abducted by aliens, that the alien race that abducted her took out the cochlear implant. I'm thinking because they didn't quite understand what it was, they didn't understand the technology, or they were just being butt heads. Either way, not cool. And so she is having to rely on her sister, who's the only other person who can use ASL, and she hasn't had to rely on ASL or her sister in many years because of her cochlear implant. So she kind of feels helpless, and multiple times in the story, just she feels weak. And but I will say, I mean, I love that representation, but I will say, this being the 7th book that I have read in this series, they are all starting to sound very, very similar, which could be very comforting to some people, but to me, it makes it kind of boring a little bit. And so will I be reading any more from this series? I don't know. I did want something just a little bit different. The reason I picked it up, I kind of picked it up on a whim because I wanted something a little bit different. And sci-fi alien romance, you know, is different, but I know I love Ruby Dixon, so I decided to go back to this series. But like I said, I was a little bored. It was not holding my attention the way I was hoping it would. So will I be reading any more? I doubt it. I doubt I will keep reading this series. My next 3-star read is Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. This is a book when I spun the wheel for my August TBR. I bought the book off my Amazon wishlist and had to read it in the same month. So I had high hopes for this. I went in hoping to love it, and it kind of fell flat. I never fully connected to the characters, either one of them. I wasn't really a fan of Priam as the main male character. And then Corrine, also not really a fan of. So as a romance, it kind of fell flat for me. I just never truly connected to either one of the characters. And that makes it really hard when there's a romance that you're not really connecting to. But it had a really good start, and then I started losing interest the more I read. So 3 stars is what we landed on. My next book is a 3.5-star rated book, and that is Unloved by Peyton Corrine. So I really enjoyed Matt's character in this book. He Peyton Corrine does a really good job of representing dyslexia, dyscalculia, and ADHD. It was done really well. And Matt is also having to deal with a lot. He's grieving the loss of his mother, and he's also having to navigate a very toxic relationship with a narcissistic father, who is a famous hockey player, and everybody doesn't quite realize that he is a shitty person. Matt is very protective of the main female character, Ro, who happens to be his academic tutor, and he is constantly encouraging her to stand up for herself, which I thought was so sweet because she's very kind, very quiet, and mild-mannered, and him encouraging her to stand up to herself, especially to her boyfriend slash ex-boyfriend, had me rooting for him. I did have a hard time connecting to Ro. She has incredibly supportive family and friends, and even though she has that positive relationship with them, she does not open up to them about all of the things that she's kind of dealing with emotionally, and it made her feel like closed off in a frustrating way to me. I didn't quite understand why. She just doesn't want to feel like a burden, which I totally understand, but at the same time, like, girlfriend, you have a support system. You have positive relationships with your family and your friends, and yet you are not relying on that system to help you out. And so on top of all of that, she cried in almost every other chapter. And so it kind of got repetitive, and it may be a little insensitive of me, but it took me out of the story, and it kind of got to be too much. So that's why I kind of landed on a 3.5. My next book is a 4.5 star rated book, and it's The 7-Year Itch by Amy Daws. This is a book that I got from NetGalley. It was one of the ARCs that I read, and this is a small town enemies with benefits rom-com. Okay, so we got some banter going on, which I really enjoyed. I was laughing and kind of tearing up sometimes, and occasionally rolling my eyes at some of the things, but it was all in good fun and in the best way possible. So Dakota, her journey of self-discovery and reclaiming her confidence was really a joy to watch. In some ways, it kind of helped heal a little bit of my heart. Her character growth was so layered, and Calder, who is the main male character, plays such a huge part in her finding herself along the way. So that made me kind of fall in love with Calder and made him even more attractive than he already was. Their chemistry is absolutely fantastic. But here's the thing. Okay, I hate the miscommunication or the lack of communication trope. And while their chemistry was electric, they did have a lack of honest communication about their real feelings, which added tension, but at the same time was frustrating. I wish they would have just talked about it. How do you really feel about each other? Instead of being like, oh, I don't want to tell him. I don't like it. I don't want to change our dynamic. I don't want to. It's very spicy, emotional, laugh out loud, rom-com. Perfect for summer. Really good. Highly recommend. So my next book is a 4.5 star rated book, and that's Wolf.e by Paisley Hope. This is a dark and edgy motorcycle club romance. But at its heart, we have love, trust, and transformation, because both of our characters go through a huge transformation. So we have Gabriel Wolf, who is the president of the motorcycle club, and Brinley Beaumont, who is raised in a very conservative, sheltered life with her by her parents. And she is taught that the motorcycle club are a bunch of criminals, outlaws. You don't want nothing to do with them. But her best friend is getting married to one of the members of the motorcycle club, who was also grew up in that kind of environment that Brinley was used to. So she's like, wait, what's going on here? Like, how did this happen? Like, what? So she starts hanging out with her best friend again, who's hanging out a lot with the motorcycle club, and Brinley learns for herself. She catches the eye of Gabriel, who is the president, and sparks fly. Literally. So Wolf, he's not just a powerful, broody alpha. He, in a lot of ways, is Brinley's anchor. He guides her while giving her the strength to kind of grow in her own power, because Brinley is very sweet, very innocent, which are good things, but at the same time, like, she doesn't ever speak up for herself. She's very quiet, and in some ways she feels powerless. And so Gabriel is kind of giving her power back by teaching her how to stand up for herself, which I really love. Brenly's confidence blooms, and I loved watching that. She becomes this fearless woman at the side of Wolf and his motorcycle club, and he is just so supportive of her transformation. This story was so good. And the spicy scenes were spicing. It was so good. Highly recommend, especially if you like darker, edgier romances. Highly recommend. And last but not least, I have my 5-star rated book, which is The Lodge by Kayla Olsen. So looking back, because this was my very first read of August, looking back, I probably would give this more like a 4.25, maybe a 4.5, because in all honesty, I loved Wolf more than, I don't know if it's Wolf or Wolf.e, because it's Wolf.e, or maybe anyways, Wolf was my favorite read of the month, even though this was a 5-star rated book, so it's technically rated higher. This is a clean romance. We have Alex Morgan, who is ghostwriting a memoir for Sebastian Green, who is a former boy band member for True North. And she gets to travel to this lodge, which I believe is in Maine. And when she is there, she meets Tyler, who is a ski instructor, and they kind of hit it off. She's having issues with Sebastian because he is in another time zone, and she can't get connected with him to get stories and speak with him. So she's having trouble writing her memoir of Sebastian because she's not able to get the stories from him. Alex and Tyler's romance is super sweet. I highly recommend this book, but like I said, it's not really a true 5-star for me. So keep that in mind. But it's still a good book. It is still a good clean romance if you like that and not so spicy. Okay. So there you have it. Those are my 8 reads that I read in August. If you would like to let me know what your favorite read was, let me know down in the comments. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave me a sun emoji. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. And I will see you next time. Bye.